Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for second session with Shashank sir. This session is all about 7 steps to IIMs, and for all CAT aspirants, we'll be also having live interaction session. You can ask your questions using the Q&A option, and we'll try to answer all of them. Last time we had a lot of questions, and we hope that you'll make it more interactive this time. Dr. Shashank Prabhu, no introduction required, but let's go ahead. He's a National Chief Mentor from IMS, alumnus of FMS Delhi, CAT 100 percentiler, CET rank 1, and IFT 100 percentiler. And sir, the platform is all yours. Go ahead. Meanwhile, we are just calling others. We do have 20 people now with us, those who are listening to you.
All right, no problem. Yeah. All right. Okay. So we'll start with the session. As mentioned, I am a doctor. I did my MBBS, then I did my MBA, and I have been mentoring students and aspirants for the last decade or so. So in case there are any queries in terms of your profile, in terms of your aspirations, in terms of what you need to do ahead in your life, then feel free to let me know. So what we will be doing is we will be conducting this session on the lines of 7 steps to IIMs. Now it's fairly straightforward. The 7 steps include themes like understanding yourself. So that is where everything starts. You have to understand yourself as an individual, and only then will you be able to understand what your goals might look like, right? Because if you are doing something simply because of a bit of FOMO, simply because your friends are doing something and you are not doing it, or maybe you have read some news which would have told you that you end up earning crores after your MBA, might not really be the best idea to go for an MBA, right? So you have to understand yourself. You have to understand why you are making this decision in the first place. Then basically comes the understanding the test bit. So I'll just spend a bit of time on understanding what the test looks like. What are the kind of scores that you should get in order to get into an IIM? What are the kind of attributes that you should have, which will enable you to get into an IIM? Then we'll get into goal setting. What exactly is it that you need to do? The colleges that you can target. So obviously, I know that the session is called 7 Steps to IIMs, but I always advise people to err on the side of caution. So whenever you have a decision to make, you have to be a bit cautious. So you can't just target one test, because you never know how that one day might pan out to be. For all you know, you might not really be at your best on that day because of whatever reason, physically, mentally, physiologically, it could be anything, right? So you have to keep your eggs in a lot of different baskets. So we'll talk about the other tests as well for a bit. Then we'll get into the individual sections. I have some actionable insights for you to follow. There are a lot of resources that I would have mentioned, be it in the form of books, be it in the form of YouTube channels, be it in the form of websites, right? There are a lot of things that are there. So maybe you might want to take some screenshots as we go ahead. And then finally, we will talk about how exactly to plan your prep, where exactly should you be at various points in time, and what should you do in terms of profile building. So that is basically the last slide that we will have, right? And obviously, we will have a bit of time for Q&A as well. So we can take a few questions at the end of the session. I have planned for a 1 hour session, but typically we run into 1 hour, 15 minutes kind of a thing. So I hope that all of you do not have any other commitments till at least 6:15, right? So that is the amount of time that we will be taking. Now, again, I would like it to be a bit interactive. What I will do is I will maybe pause at various points in time, obviously to catch a breather. And of course, I'll ask you a question. Feel free to put your answers in the comment section. You can either put it in the chat or in the Q&A. If you have a question, please use the Q&A option, as mentioned by Gaganjeet sir on the chat. So you can do that, and let me know as to whatever your questions are. All right. If it is pertinent to a particular slide, then I will stop there. I'll answer your question, and then we will move ahead. If it is something that is of generic nature, we will handle it at the end. Right. Also, there might be some background noise. I basically stay next to a busy street, sort of a busy street. So at some point in time, it might happen that there might be a bit of honking, or there might be some non-human sounds, right? So don't worry about that. In case there is some problem, please let me know. Okay, so we'll start with the session. A very, very basic question to start with. It's not exactly a basic question, but it's a good part of understanding yourself. So there is this word that exists, and this word is called ikigai. I don't know how many of you have heard of this word. It's also the name of a book, if someone has read it. So it's called ikigai. Does anyone want to take a shot at what exactly is ikigai and what do we mean by this? Anyone who has heard of it before? Yeah. All right, Tanmay. That's a fair enough. Yeah, Rushmita, correct. Yeah, Pooja, it's a Japanese word. Yes. Yeah. Anyone else wants to take a shot at it? All of you have written your answers are right. It's a very interesting concept and something that you can use even outside of CAT. Yeah. Okay. Pooja, yes. Life value / worth. Arusmita said to know the reason for existence, purpose of life, as said by Tanmay. Right. So all the answers are correct. Of course, ikigai is a Japanese concept, and it essentially talks about the reason for being. It literally means a reason for being. Why do you exist? Why do you work hard? Why are you alive? Right, in a way. So that is basically what it means. Now whenever you are making any decision in terms of your life, you have to gauge it on 4 counts. Right, you have to understand whether it is something that you love to do, whether it is something that you are good at, whether it's something that the world needs, whether it's something that you can get paid for. Very simple questions. And if there is an activity, there is an occupation that ticks all the 4 boxes, that is basically your calling in life, and that's how you make decisions. Now I understand that a lot of you would be in your pre-final years, final years, first year of college, anything. I mean, you could be at any point in time. At some level you might be dissatisfied with whatever you're doing, or maybe you're looking for larger opportunities, you are looking for bigger things in life, right? And you believe that you are capable of getting those things, right? Now the point is, you have to ask yourself, is it something that you like to do? Is it something that you would love to do? Every morning you feel excited about going to work, and it's not exactly a bad thing, right? Going to work, it does not have a negative connotation. Is that something? So obviously after your MBA, the kind of work that you will be getting, the kind of profiles that you will be going for, do they excite you? That is the first thing. The second thing is, do you consider yourself good to be good at something, right? Is it something that you're already good at, but you need a larger canvas? Or is it something that you are mildly interested in, but you know that you have a knowledge and a skill gap that you will be able to bridge by doing an MBA, right? Is that something that you are going for? The third thing is it something that the world needs? Now, obviously, this is more of a moralistic or an ethics-based question. Is it something that the world needs? Is it something that you can happily go to sleep without worrying about for the next day, whether your job will be in existence or not, whether it is something that is illegal or not? So, of course, is it something that the world needs? And finally, yes, that is the most important question. Is it something that you can get paid for? Right? It's very important. Now, if you lie at any of the intersections, you will be happy, but you might not really find your calling, right? You might be happy in certain points in time. You might be happy when you get paid, right? That is basically your 4th quadrant that you have. You will be very happy when you get paid. But is it something that you like to do? The answer might be a no. Is it something that you are good at? Probably, maybe not. Is it something that the world needs? I don't know, right? But you are just getting paid for. Now, that might not be the driving force, right? So whenever you are making a decision, make sure that you are evaluating it on each of these 4 fronts, and only then you end up taking the decision. This can also be a good framework when it comes to answering your why MBA questions. You might not want to say, I want to achieve Ikigai, obviously. But then again, you might want to frame your answer on these 4 parameters. You might want to insert these 4 things into your answer. And that is basically how you can answer your question. All right. I hope the concept is clear. The various sectors that we have are demarcated, and they talk about each and every part of things. I'll not spend a lot of time on this. It is fairly self-explanatory, but do give it a try once. And again, try to think about your life decisions on these 4 parameters, and you should be fine. All right. Now, moving ahead, again, a deeper understanding of yourself. What exactly does it mean to take the CAT, or what are the skills that you require to crack the test? Now, there are some questions that I will ask you. Again, these are fairly rhetorical in nature. I know that some of you know the answers to these, some of you might not know the answers to this. But the point is, you have to think about these questions. Now, there's a very simple question. I'm sure all of you know that if you want to figure out whether a number is divisible by 9 or not, you add all the digits and figure out whether the sum is divisible by 9 or not. So if I just give you a random example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's say. The sum of the digits of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is going to be 15. And again, if you add 1 plus 5, you'll get 6. Now 6 is not 9, which basically tells you that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is not divisible by 9, 1. And 2, the remainder when you divide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 9 is going to be 6. Those are the two things that you will know once you have gone through this thing, right? Now the point is, why do you need to do this? Why not take only the last 3 digits and figure out whether it's divisible by 9 or not? Or last 2 digits and figure out whether it's divisible by 9 or not? 4 ke liye to it works, right? 4 ke liye you take only the last 2 digits. Then why do we need to add everything for 9? Right? I'm sure some of you know the answer. But for those of you who don't, try to explore these things, because at the end of it, when you are taking CAT 2022, these are basically the things that you will find to be useful at a later point in time, because they will make you inquisitive in nature. We'll look at it on the next slide. Another question. Now, those of you who know what and why the divisibility test for 9 exists, the second question is, how do we figure out the divisibility by 11? So again, some of you might know that we take all the odd placed digits, add them, get the sum. We add all the even placed digits, add them, get the sum. Take the difference between the two sums. Whatever resultant you get, if that is divisible by 11, your original number should be divisible by 11, right? So that is basically what we are going for in this context. But again, the question remains as to why do we need to do that, right? It's very important to understand the why of things. The next bit, there is a very simple word called Brobdingnagian. Does anyone want to take a shot at it? What is Brobdingnagian? Anyone has heard of this term, or maybe would have, I don't know, someone might have watched Big Bang Theory and might have a good memory like Sheldon Cooper, might be able to recall something. Anyone? Yeah, it's a tough word, right? Yeah. So I'll explain you what Brobdingnagian stands for. And so basically the context is, again, I did not think of this word. It was essentially mentioned in this show called The Big Bang Theory. I'm sure some of you might have heard of it. Some of you might have watched it as well. So basically what happens is, I'll give you the context. Maybe then you might be able to understand it better. So what happens in this thing is, there is this person called Sheldon Cooper. He enters an office and there is a big table, right? There's a big wooden table in front of him. And he exclaims, what is this Brobdingnagian monstrosity? Right? So what is this Brobdingnagian monstrosity? Now, given the context, I'm sure a lot of you will be able to tell me what Brobdingnagian stands for. Right? Obviously, Brobdingnagian means something huge. But you might want to explore it a bit deeper and understand what is the root of this word, right? Brobdingnagian. There is nothing basically that you can think of, right? There is no root that exists. Brob is not a root. Ding is not a root. Nagian is an alien root that we have here. So it does not match with anything. But if you look at the story behind it, you might know this story called Gulliver's Travels. Now, in Gulliver's Travels, what happens is, this person, Gulliver, travels to a lot of islands. We know one part of the story, wherein he travels to this island called Lilliput, wherein he meets all these people who are very small in size compared to Gulliver. So Gulliver is a giant. Now Gulliver resolves their conflict, whatever happens, he does his job there, and he moves on to the next island. And when he goes to the next island, the people there are huge in size. They are much larger than Gulliver. That island is called Brobdingnag. Brobdingnagian is basically the adjective, right? So if something is huge, unnaturally large in size, then we call it Brobdingnagian. So if you make it a habit to understand words in this manner, in terms of roots, in terms of stories, I think you will be able to remember a lot of words. You will be able to improve your vocabulary. Right? There's another question. Again, have you heard one or many of these names? I have removed the obvious name in this list. I'm sure some of you know the other obvious thing that does not exist in this particular list. Kakuro, Hitori, Bulsenka House, Kakuraso, Tower of Hanoi. I'm sure some of you would have heard of this. Anyone has heard of these? Yeah. Anybody who has heard of these terms? Anyone who has played any of these games? Yeah. So again, those are all of you might want to explore these things, right? So Kakuro, Hitori, Bulsen House, Kakuraso, Tower of Hanoi, and again, if you go ahead, there are some puzzles called No Grids. There are some puzzles called Loop the Loop. I have not put the obvious one, which is Sudoku. There is this puzzle called Hidato. There are a lot of puzzles that exist. Yeah, Tower of Hanoi. Yeah, Kanak knows about Tower of Hanoi. Tower of Hanoi, I'm sure a lot of you would know. So you would have seen those rings that kids play with, right? There is a tower that exists, and there is a larger ring, there is a smaller ring, there is a smaller ring, there is a ring that is even further smaller, and so on. And you stack them on top of each other. That is actually a logical puzzle. For people who would have seen this movie, Planet of the Apes, the first part, you would have seen the ape assembling this Tower of Hanoi, right? So you might again want to give it a try. All these are like nice logical puzzles that exist, and obviously, if you have heard about these puzzles, if you are curious when it comes to these kind of things, you will obviously do a good job. And last thing, I'm talking about these apps that exist. So obviously, a lot of you spend a lot of time on your phones. There are a lot of these apps that exist which will help you train your brain in a better manner. So these apps are called Lumosity, Elevate, 2048, Sudoku, of course, Minesweeper, Brain Training, and so on. Right. So again, this is one thing that you might want to think about at a deeper level, because this is what is going to matter at the end of the day. How many kgs of material did you consume, or how many thousand of questions you solved? That is, it's not exactly a quantifiable number that you have, right? You have to understand where you are at this point in time, and the better you understand yourself, the better you understand what you're getting into, the more attuned you are to what exactly are the skills required to crack this test, the better off you will, right? So that is what we are going for in this case. Now, how do the toppers do it? Now, obviously, we try to understand ourselves. Let's see what the toppers do, or what the people who do really well at these tests end up doing, right? So if I just look at some of the traits, the first thing is the toppers will read a lot, right? Now, when I say read a lot, again, there are a lot of meanings to it. And again, I'm not saying that they will just sit and read a newspaper without understanding the context, nothing. I'm just talking about a reading habit. So whenever you go to someone's place, let's say, for example, there's a newspaper lying around. Do you feel the need to pick it up and read it? Whenever you sort of look at some interesting technology that exists, do you feel the need to go pick up the instruction manual and have a look at the instructions that are there? There's a book lying around and you just pick it up and start reading, right? So all these things basically will matter a lot. So the toppers will read a lot, right? It's not about just reading because of reading by force. It's reading by choice. It's a very small difference that exists, right? Reading by choice, reading by force, there are two different things. The toppers or people who do well at these tests will be ones who would read a lot by choice, not by force, right? The other thing is they focus more on the how than on the what. Now, we are all used to getting the answers to these questions. What is the answer to the question is something that will make you extremely curious. Now, of course, the goal of the test is to answer the question correctly, but how did we get the answer is a very important part of the journey, because when you get a question that is slightly dissimilar to what you have solved earlier, you will need to make that transition very quickly. And if you do not know the way in which you solve the particular question, and you do not know the concept behind it, or you do not know what exactly went behind solving that particular question, then you are going to end up in trouble most of the times. So a lot of people talk about shortcuts. A lot of people think about looking at numbers and acha 37 dikh gaya, so 111 should be my answer. A lot of people think about it in that manner, but obviously, how do we get that is a different question that you need to answer. So again, ask a lot of questions. Focus more on the how of things than on the what of things. Considering that many of you are going to take CAT 2022, I think you can spend a bit of time on developing these aspects of your personality in general. Right? The toppers will learn concepts quickly, efficiently, and I didn't add the third word, tirelessly. It's very important, right? People will learn concepts very quickly, right? You will be quick to grasp concepts. Why? Because you have done something good when you were in school. I'm not talking in terms of pure marks. I'm talking in terms of learning, right? So if someone would have learned sum of two sides of a triangle is greater than the third side, or perpendicular bisector is nothing but the locus of all the points that are equidistant from the endpoints of a segment. If whatever I'm saying here makes sense to you, then you would probably you would have been a good student at school, is what I'm saying, right? You might not have got the most number of marks, but you would have been a decent student at school. So you have to understand concepts very quickly. You have to understand them very efficiently, right? When I say efficiently, it means that without loss of context. A lot of you will know some concepts, but then you know it at a half-baked level. You might not know what happens if there is some problem in that particular concept, right? So arithmetic mean is greater than or equal to geometric mean is greater than or equal to harmonic mean is a concept that I'm sure a lot of you know, but only few of you might know that this will be applicable only for positive numbers. So understand those concepts efficiently. These three things generally work very well. You have to repeat, you have to retain, you have to recall. So repetition leads to better retention, leads to better recall. You have to do that. Unless you are going through concepts again and again and again, you might forget a few of those, right? So you have to keep on repeating what you do. Explore alternative techniques and interlinkages. So again, you have to not stop at the solution that has been shown to you. You have to explore interlinkages at every point in time. So at IMS, we have this test series, you can say, called the SimCats, wherein we give you tests that are similar to what a cat might look like, right? And when we design solutions for these tests, so I am a part of the team that designs solutions for the SimCat questions. So what we do in our video solutions is that, so there are some of us who will sit together and we will discuss the question among ourselves. We'll try to come up with alternative techniques. We'll try to see if, okay, there is some interlinkage with some other concept that fits in this particular context. What was the quickest way to solve it? Are there alternative approaches to this particular solution, right? So we will brainstorm, we will sit and figure out what exactly does it mean to solve a particular question. So I expect you to do the same thing as well. Do not stop at a solution just because it has been shared with you in a textbook. Make sure that you are trying to explore other things, other ways in which you could have solved a particular question. And finally, again, prep should not be by force. It should be by choice. It should not be so that you become happy at a later point in time. It should make you happy at that point in time, right? It should be it should give you instant gratification. You can't really say that, nahi, this is a sacrifice that I have to make. This is a big thing for me. I have to force myself to sit at one place for 3 hours. I don't think you will be able to sustain that kind of energy, right? So prepare because you want to prepare. Prepare because you want to do well at the test. Prepare because you enjoy the subject. You enjoy learning new things. Not because you need to do this as a chore, which will help you get into a decent college. That is generally not why it works, right? So make sure that your basics are in place. Make sure that you know what exactly it means to prepare for the test. Right? Now we'll move on to understanding the test. So if you look at the test, I'm not getting into the pattern of the test because the pattern of the test has been changing over the last couple of years. This year, again, we have very less clarity on what the test looks like. I'll just give you an overview in terms of the sections. So as you would already know, there are 3 sections when it comes to the CAT. The first section is the verbal ability reading comprehension section. This year or last year, if I have to take if I were to elaborate on the pattern of the test, you get 40 minutes to solve the verbal ability and reading comprehension section. Last year, VARC section had 26 questions in total, right? So you basically had so many questions that you needed to solve in 40 minutes. Now, these questions are split into 2 parts. One part is called reading comprehension, wherein you will get a passage and then you will get some questions that will follow. So there were 18 such questions last year. 26 questions in total, out of which 18 questions were reading comprehension. And the remaining 8 questions were from verbal ability. So we will see what verbal ability and reading comprehension looks like at a later point in time. But that was the nature of the section. As soon as your timer ran for 40 minutes, after 40 minutes were up, only then will you be able to go to the next section. Or would you have been able to go to the next section, which was logical reasoning or logic as it's called. So LRDI is logical reasoning and data interpretation. So after 40 minutes were up, verbal ability section would have been done with. you would not be able to attempt that section that has gone by, and then you will go to the next one. That's how it goes. Then again, 40 minutes of LRDI wherein you will be solving puzzles. So last year there were 5 puzzles, 2 puzzles of 6 marks each, 3 more puzzles of 2 puzzles of 6 questions each, sorry, and 3 more puzzles of 4 questions. So that was the format last year. The year before that we had 8 puzzles of 4 questions each. So again, we don't know what it might look like in 2022. So that part we will cover at a later point. Okay? But you get puzzles. Again, 40 minutes to solve these puzzles. After 40 minutes, you will not be able to go back to the section. And even if you finish the section in 20 minutes, you will not be able to move to the next section. So there are these 3 tests of 40 minutes each that happen consecutively. The last section is the QA section, which is the quantitative ability section, wherein you are tested on your math prowess. So LRDI had 24 questions, quantitative ability had 26 questions. So verbal 26, LRDI 24, quant 26. A total of 76 questions were there. The marking scheme is fairly straightforward. For MCQ questions, there are 2 types of questions. One is the MCQ type of questions, wherein you have multiple choices. You have to select the best option among the 4 that would have been given to you. Every correct answer will fetch you 3 marks. Every incorrect answer will give you a penalty of 1 mark. So it's a +3 -1 marking scheme. However, again, this is very particular to the CAT. There are some questions wherein you will not have options at all. So they might ask you simply, what is the order in which these sentences should be arranged to form a paragraph? And they would number the statements 1, 2, 3, 4. If your answer is 2, 3, 1, 4, you have to just click 2, 3, 1, 4 and save your answer. Right? Now, these questions are called theta questions. Type in the answer. Now, when it comes to the theta questions, for every correct answer that you give, you will get 3 marks. Sorry. But for every incorrect answer that you enter, you will end up getting 0. There won't be any negative marks associated with theta questions, right? So of course, when you start taking tests, you will understand the subtleties of this, but this is basically the overview. Particular to the CAT, you also have an on-screen calculator for the data interpretation, LRDI, and the quant sections, right? You have for these 2 sections, you have a calculator as well. However, the calculator is very primitive in nature, you can say. It has only basic calculation that you can do, and it takes a lot of time to click each and every number on that calculator. So it's a painful thing. You might not want to use it that frequently. Having said that, if you try to understand the test, there are a few benchmarks that you have. There are a few numbers that might interest you. One number is at the leftmost side, 80 percentile. If you look at the number of marks that get you an 80 percentile, again, section wise, don't get into it at this point in time. At a later point in time, you can think about sectional percentiles as well. For today, just think about the overall score. Now, if there are 76 questions and for each correct answer you get +3, you would have got 228 marks at most, right? 228 marks at most is what you would have got. Now, 228 marks is your maximum score. 49 would have given you an 80th percentile. 49 marks. 49 marks is slightly more than 20% of the test. Right? It's slightly more than 20% of the overall score that you would have, that you could have scored. Right? This basically means that there are 80% of the test taking people or 80% of the test taking population would have scored fewer than 49 marks. That is the interpretation of this. I am pretty certain that all of you who are sitting here in this session would be at least at an 80 percentile level at this point in time. That is my firm belief. You might not believe it, but I believe it. I firmly believe it. My next goal is to reach a 90th percentile. Okay? A 90th percentile last year was at a score of 63 marks. Now again, people who are good at calculation, you can think about it. 63 out of 228, not even 30%. Not even 30%, right? If you score 28, 29%, you would cross 90th percentile, which means that you would be better than 90% of the test taking population. And of course, your next goal should be a 99th percentile, which was at 102 out of 228, right? 102 out of 228 will be roughly what, 45-ish, 40, 45-ish percent, 44, 45-ish percent, right? So that is basically the amount of marks that we are looking at. Now, on the face of it, you might feel that it's a very easy test. What is this? 20%, 30%? It's nothing, right? It's very easy. But you have to look at the test. You have to look at the pressure that is associated with the test. because I'm talking about getting 102 marks, let's say. 102 marks basically means that you have to get 34 correct answers. There will obviously be some incorrect answers as well. For every correct answer that you mark, you can afford to have 3 incorrect answers, right? That is basically the math that goes on. And if you look at last year's test, and if you just look at what you were capable of, you will see that you would possibly be able to score a 45-50 at this point in time with this level of preparation. But obviously, at a later point in time, as you go ahead, you will see that there are different challenges to solving the test real time. I don't know how many of you have watched this series called Kota Factory. The season 2 came out. There is a very interesting insight when it comes to solving a test as an aspirant, not as a serious test taker. So those of you, I will not spoil it for those all of you, but those of you who have seen it will know what I'm talking. Right? It's a different thing to solve it at home, right, with no pressure, and it's a different thing solving the test at an actual center. Right? So that was what I was talking about. 100 percentile, of course, is a different breed of animal altogether. You will see the difference, right? 99% of the population has scored less than 102 marks, but the absolute toppers of the test have scored 163. So they are more than 50% ahead of the 99th percentilers, right? So that is basically the gap that exists between the extremely good people and the good people that are. So the test is very sensitive that, right? I hope you have had an understanding of the test. I hope you have understood what these percentiles stand for. And percentile in layman terms is the percentage of people whom you have defeated, whom you have outscored. That is what it means. Now, as I said, do not put all your eggs in one basket. Things might go wrong. And obviously, there are some things that are not in your control. You might have an upset stomach. You might not be able to find your center. Your center might be in some other location, right? There have been instances when people have got their 6th preference. People have got their centers at Nasik. I know people who have got their centers in far along as in places, right? So far flung places. So again, you might not be in the best frame of mind. So you might always want to hedge things. So there are these tests that exist. Of course, there are tests beyond these that exist as well, but these are basically the tests that we recommend. So NMAT is generally going to be the first test that you are going to take. Might happen somewhere in the first week of October, mid of October also, right? It's happening around the same time this year as well. It goes on till the mid of December or the end of December. So it goes on for a good 75 days. It's conducted in various slots. And the good thing about the NMAT is that it is adaptive in nature. So all of the test takers will not get the same questions. Your next question will be dependent on your performance on the previous question. So you might want to explore that. IFT again is a good college. It's called Indian Institute of Foreign Trade. They offer an MBA in international business. The test occurs 1 week after CAT generally. So first Sunday of December is when it happens generally. So again, it's a very good college. They have a couple of campuses in Delhi and Kolkata. Another campus is there in Kakinada. By the time you appear for the test, it might be operational, but at the moment they have 2 campuses, Delhi and Kolkata. SNAP is for all the colleges under the Symbiosis International University, SIU. So there are colleges like SIBM, SCMHRD, SIOM, SIIB, SITM, SIMS, SIMC, and so on. So there are a lot of colleges. Right? SNAP happens, or last year and this year, it's happening thrice a year. So you can take it up to 2 times, I believe, out of 3, and the best of your attempts will be considered. So it's happening in and around December and January, right? So that is basically the nature of SNAP. Obviously, next year things might change by a bit once the lockdown eases off, hopefully. So it might change by a bit. But SNAP is again a test that you might want to take for those symbiosis colleges. Then you have ZAT, which is for primarily for XLRI. So XLRI Jamshedpur is a very good college. I would put it in the same league as say an IIM Lucknow, or even better than that, I would say. So FMS, IIM Lucknow, XLRI, all are like really good colleges, almost at the level of IIM ABC is what I would say. Right? So ZAT is something that happens on the first Sunday of January. It is a very interesting test. There is a nice decision-making section that exists in this test, so you might want to have a look at it. And again, XLRI takes considers your ZAT score for their admissions. Then you have MyCat. So people are looking at branding, advertising, and so on. They might want to check out MyCat as well. So MyCat is for MICA. MICA is Mudra Institute of Communications. It's based out of Ahmedabad. It's a very good college, especially when it comes to an MBA in communication. Right. So it's a very interesting course. There are people who are sort of diehard fans of Mica. So you might want to check it out. It's a very good college, especially if you have creative pursuits. Then you have the Maharashtra MBA MMS CET. So people who are from Maharashtra or people who are looking specifically for JBIMS, Jamnalal Bajaj, they might want to go for the MBA MMS CET that happens. Ideally, it happens somewhere around the mid of March, but last couple of years it has been getting delayed. So this year it happened in the last week, but generally it happens somewhere around March. And there's this test called the CMAT, which is again considered by a lot of colleges, including JBIMS in most years. That happens somewhere in the mid or end of January. So again, these are the prominent tests that you have. In addition to these, you also have tests like MAT, ATMA, IBSAT, some tests for IRMA, TISNET, TISMAT. So all these tests you have in addition to these tests, right? So there are a lot of good colleges, a lot of tests that are there. Again, you have to sit and decide as to what is your forte and what exactly should you target. Right? On the basis of that, you can write these. In a typical year, people end up writing 5 to 6 tests on an average. So people will generally go for SNAP, NMAT, IFT, ZAT, SCAT, and CET. For people who want to get into MICA or TIS, MICAT or TISNET are the 2 additional tests that people go for. But generally, people will go for at least 5 or 6 of these tests. Right? I hope it's clear. Now, as I said, the top institutes, obviously the IIMs are the top of the tree. So your older IIMs are the best institutes. FMS Delhi is one of the best institutes. XLRI is one of the best institutes. SPJMR is again very good. So if you look at any ranking system, so we at IMS also have a ranking system that we have. You can just check out the creme de la creme colleges, and you will see most of them or all of them in that list. Right. So as I mentioned, all these colleges are pretty decent. In the first bullet, they're like extremely good. Generally, if you get a call from these colleges, and if you convert something, then ideally you should join these colleges without a second thought. But obviously there might be exceptions. But if you are getting a call from these, or if you are getting a convert from these colleges, ideally you should join. The second bullet talks about colleges that are again pretty decent in nature. They're not bad colleges at all. They are very good colleges. So the IITs, at least the 4 IITs that I have written here, Bombay, Delhi, Madras, Kharagpur, are all very good. The newer IIMs, the second generation IIMs that we had, Shillong, Raipur, Rohtak, Ranchi, Trichy, Udaipur, Kashipur, all are good colleges. MICA, as I mentioned, NMIMS, SIBM, SMHRD, TIS, all are very good colleges. So again, if you have a decentish profile, if you don't want to take another attempt, you're getting a college like these. Among these, definitely go for it without any second thoughts. Then you have the latest IIMs. Typically, the latest IIMs cutoffs have been somewhere around 91, 92 percentile. So these are the latest IIMs, also called the baby IIMs. So these are from Amritsar, Bodh Gaya, Jammu, Nagpur, Sirmaur, Sambalpur, and Vizag. So there are these latest IIMs that we have. And then we have these colleges which go on till the 85th percentile also. So if you are getting an 85 percentile, you will find a lot of takers from the list that I have given you. Right, so a lot of decent colleges here. IIT Kanpur is also decent. So I would probably place it somewhere here with IMT, IIM and all. It might not be as good as BDM and KGP. But Roorkee, Kanpur has their own program. BITS started their own program. So all these are decent programs that you have. So I'd probably put it in the last bullet. Okay, I hope it's fine. All right. So you can find this list of colleges at various portals. IMS also has something. You can look for top these. So you will find it there. Right. Now coming to the sections that we have, we'll get into the core part of preparation. So what I'll do is I'll just spend some time on each section, and then we'll probably get a clearer idea of it. So I've already mentioned the nature of the section, right? 26 questions last year, 18 reading comprehension, 8 verbal ability. The topics that appeared were reading comprehension. So 1 passage followed by 4 to 5 questions. So last year we had 2 passages, 4 questions each, 2 passages, 5 questions each. Then you have jumbled paragraphs, wherein again you have 4 statements that would be given to you, but they would be in a jumbled format, right? You have to unscramble these 4 sentences to create a coherent paragraph. So that is basically your jumbled paragraphs question. Odd sentence out will tell you that there will be 4 statements given to you, out of which 3 statements could have been arranged to form a paragraph, but there is one statement that is out of context. So there are three statements that can be arranged to form a coherent paragraph, but there is one statement which is not relevant, or it's not in the same context as the other three. You have to spot what this odd sentence is, right? So that is another question type. And the last question type is paragraph summary, wherein you will be given a paragraph of 4 or 5 lines, and there will be 4 alternative, or there will be 4 summaries given to you. Out of the 4 summaries that have been given to you, one would be the most apt, and the other 3 would be milder versions or not really great versions of the best summary, right? So you have to figure out which summary is the best or captures the entire essence of the paragraph, right? So that is a paragraph summary question. Now, additional topics that I have written here are grammar, vocabulary, critical reasoning. At the CAT, you will not get questions on grammar, vocabulary, critical reasoning directly from what we have seen over the last 6 years now. So CAT 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 6 years may we haven't seen direct grammar based questions or vocabulary based questions or critical reasoning questions that appear. But each of these will have some relevance when it comes to the topics that I have mentioned above, right? So vocabulary is very important when it comes to reading passages. If you don't have a good vocabulary, you will not be able to read passages fluently. You will always get stuck on a word, and that is the most dangerous thing that can happen in that particular section, right? If you do not really have good grammatical skills, you will suffer in the other 2 sections as well. So grammar is absolutely essential if you want to crack logical reasoning sets. It's also absolutely essential if you have to do a good job at math questions as well, right? You should understand grammar. But at the verbal ability section, if you look at it, understanding parajumbles or cracking parajumbles, to crack parajumbles rather, you will need a good hold on grammar. You will need to have a good understanding of parallelism. You will have to have a good understanding of pronoun antecedent. You will have to have a good understanding of tenses, right? So all these things will matter when it comes to the jumbled paragraphs. Critical reasoning is what the nature of questions are when it comes to the reading comprehension passages. So critical reasoning will talk about assumptions. What is an inherent assumption behind a particular paragraph? Which one is analogous to the argument that has been present? Which one strengthens the argument, which one weakens the argument. Last year at the CAT, we had some confusing question types. Which one, if false, will weaken the argument, right? So this was again a very difficult question type to interpret during the test, right? So that is basically what it looks like. Now, what to do in terms of novels? So I'm sure some of you have a good reading habit, so you can continue whatever you're doing. For those of you who don't have a good reading habit and you want to start somewhere, I have just mentioned the authors. It's your job to figure out which are the good books, right? So I've just mentioned some authors. You can just check out the books. Agatha Christie, again, if I were to mention, I would probably say The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, and Then There Were None. So all these are like decent books. Murder on the Orient Express, let's say. Hercule Poirot Mysteries. So all these are like very good books when it comes to Agatha Christie. Dan Brown has again written some very nice books. Page Turners. They might not be brilliant pieces of literature, of course, but if you want to start somewhere, you can start from. Yeah, sorry. So Dan Brown, you can look at novels like Angels and Demons, Deception Point, Digital Fortress, Da Vinci Code. A lot of you know about it. Inferno, Origin. So there are a lot of books that Dan Brown has written. Again, you might want to check out those. Similarly, Ruskin Bond, A.C. Doyle, Amish Tripathi, Sudha Murthy, all of them write really nice books. These books are sort of page turners, if you want to call them that, and you will be able to finish them. So the idea is to start reading, finish a book in 1 week. That is the benchmark that I set for myself, right? Or I will set for you guys. So I will set more stringent benchmarks for myself because I tend to read a bit, right? So these are the books that you can start with, or these are the authors that you can start with. Obviously, there are more that I have not mentioned. Someone like a P.G. Wodehouse, let's say, for example. You might start with P.G. Wodehouse as well. Again, very, very, very good books. For people who want to start with non-fiction, right? There are a couple of books that are really good, and as a CAT aspirant, as an aspiring manager, you might want to read it. And those are the first 2 ones that I've written. Barking Up the Wrong Tree is a severely underrated book. It's written by, I believe it's the name of the author is Eric Barker. Very, very well written book. You might want to check it out. It will give you some really nice case studies, and you will probably feel a lot more motivated once you finish that book. Atomic Habits is again something that is widely recommended. It's a very nice book. You might want to try it. The Power of Habit is also very good by Charles Duhigg. Again, very nice book. You might want to try that as well. But the first couple of books are self-help books. Then Imagining India, you might want to try. If you are a fan of Indian history, you might want to try India After Gandhi, Ramchandra Guha. Very well written books. So it will take you on a good journey, right? The last lecture, the Selfish Gene. Again, Selfish Gene is more or less on biology, on your genetic makeup. The Body is again a very nice book by Bill Bryson. So there is another book by Bill Bryson called The Short History of Nearly Everything, which is again a very nice, very highly recommended book. But I like The Body better, probably because I come from a biology background. But even if you don't come from a biology background, I think you will enjoy the book. For people who sort of hated economics and hated research, you might want to check out Freakonomics and Super Freakonomics. Stephen Levitt, Stephen Dubner, very well written. They're fun and engaging books to read. So you might want to check out these novels. So if you want, you can take a screenshot of this, and as you go ahead, you can keep on adding these novels to your kitty. Right. For specialization, so again, I understand that a lot of people might not know what their intended specialization is. Some of you might want to do marketing. Some of you might feel that marketing is very bad because there is a lot of pressure in terms of targets. So मेरे को marketing नहीं करना है. Some of you might want to do finance because finance के अंदर बहुत पैसा है. Some of you might want to do HR क्योंकि HR बहुत chill है. Some of you might not want to do HR because HR is probably the most abused profession, right? So again, it's completely up to you what you want to do in life. None of these are good or bad. It's basically what you are good at, right? But to help you understand what exactly it means to sort of do well in a profession, or what it means to study a profession, you might want to check out these books. So Made to Stick, Stories at Work are really good books when it comes to marketing, specifically advertising and branding. So really nice books, you might want to check those out. So those are like my sort of my favorite books when it comes to marketing and branding, probably, right? Then there is this book called Super Pumped. Now Super Pumped is the story of Uber. How Uber came into existence, how Travis Kalanick went on this entire journey. It's a beautifully written book. So you might want to check it out. If someone wants to become an entrepreneur, if you are looking at becoming an entrepreneur and starting a business of your own at some point in time, I would highly recommend Super Pumped. Right? It's a brilliantly written book. It will tell you what exactly does it mean to be successful, and how do you bend rules, how do things come back and bite you. So all those things are there. It's a very nice journey. I found it to be very interesting. Then you have The Smartest Guys in the Room. This is based on the Enron scandal. So you might want to read that. Budding accountants, budding corporate finance people, you might want to check this out. The Six Sigma Way for people who are interested in operations. McKinsey Way for people who are interested in consulting. Warren Buffett accounting book for people who haven't had accounting at all as a part of their college curriculum. And finally, Measure What Matters, or even No Rules, which is the sort of how do I put it? As in, it's basically the ideology of Netflix. So Measure What Matters and No Rules are two good books that you can read if you are an HR aspirant. So how exactly do you place trust in people? What should be your hiring policy? How should you motivate your team? How should you engage your team? So all those things are fairly well covered in these books, right? So you might want to check these out. These are your specialization based books. And finally, for subject knowledge, again, people who are absolutely woeful at maths, people who hate maths as a subject, you might want to check out this book called The Joy of X. It's very well written. It's a nice, fun book. If you have hated calculus, if you have hated geometry, you might want to read this. It's a very nice book. So you might want to check it out. It's written by this person called Steven Strogatz, if I remember correctly, right? But a very nice book. There's this book called How Charts Lie. People who are scared of charts, people who are scared of data. It's a very nice written book, a nicely written book, and it's absolutely essential in today's context. So again, there's a book called 38 Logical Fallacies, very good book in today's context again, but obviously How Charts Lie is a more relevant book in your context. You might want to check that out. Math with Bad Drawings, again, a very nice book. It's a fun little book which focuses on developing math, right? Eats, Shoots and Leaves is a very nice book for people who dread grammar. For those of you who don't know the rules of grammar, Instead of going for a Renan Martin, which might be slightly drab, Eat Shoots and Leaves is a very nicely written, humorous book, which will also help you with the rules of grammar. So the thing that I've written here, Let's Eat Grandma, it's sort of derived from that book, right? So it's a nice play on words. Then you have Word Power Made Easy, something that is highly recommended. Everybody and their relatives reads Word Power Made Easy because it's a very easy to recommend book, because it's a very difficult to finish book, right? So Word Power Made Easy is a huge book. It will help you understand vocabulary by a bit. It will make you look at words in a different manner because it will train you to look at roots of a word. But obviously your journey starts from there. Till where do you go ahead with that is completely up to you, but it's a nice book to get started with vocabulary. There is another book written by Norman Lewis, the same author behind Word Power Made Easy, called How to Read Better and Faster. So people who are looking at speed reading, you might want to look at this as well, although it's not really an absolutely necessary skill. But how to read better and faster will give you some techniques. In fact, we at IMS have a session called speed reading, which is I think the third or the fourth verbal session, third verbal session. So that is speed reading, wherein we share some techniques that you can use to read faster. So that is basically how it goes. In terms of news, you might want to pick and choose one of the resources that I have mentioned or something else. It's completely up to you. A lot of people prefer Hindu. Personally, I don't prefer Hindu because I find it very difficult to read. I would probably prefer something like an Economic Times. If I want to look at business news, then maybe something like a Money Control. There's this again publication called EPW, Economic and Political Weekly. Again, very nice. I might prefer something like the Mint, right? So I like these kind of publications. They're easy to read, and even something like a Times of India, I'm fine with it, right? Because I don't really want to improve my vocabulary by reading newspapers. So that's why I prefer any news source which keeps me updated and is easy to read, right? You also have Aeon, which you can look at. Aeon gives you these huge articles, 3,000, 4,000 word articles, which are very dense in terms of concepts. They are very well, deeply researched articles. So they will probably help you read tirelessly because that is basically what you have to read during the test. So it will help you do that. AL Daily is a good source when it comes to reading unconventional topics like, say, history, philosophy, let's say art, literature, geography, polity, economics, right? So all those things are covered in AL Daily. So you might want to check that out. It's a slightly boring read. So I'll just sort of warn you. To start with, it's a slightly boring read at the beginning, but once you get used to it, things become much easier. Right? Then you have New York Times, Bloomberg, whichever. It's completely up to you as to what you can consume. This is basically what I recommend, right? But it's completely up to you as to where you want to go ahead with this. Then you should be using a thesaurus. Online thesaurus is also fine frequently to understand the meaning of words. There is a book called All About Words, which is similar to Word Power Made Easy. Again, if you like Word Power Made Easy, you might want to explore that as well. So you might want to check that out. Daily Writing Tips is a nice blog. It will explore some quirks of the English language. Where to use that, where to use which, where to use who, where to use whom, where to use as, where to use since, right? So all these things you will be discussing in Daily Writing Tips. So commonly confused words, basic grammatical errors, spelling mistakes. So I don't know how many of you know this, but the spelling of minuscule is not MINISCULE. It's not that. It's MINUSCULE. So it's minuscule. It's not minuscule, but it got slightly polluted as we went ahead with it, right? So all these kind of things you might find on Daily Writing Tips. And then obviously there are these new age platforms that exist, right? So Blinkist is one which you can use. Every day they will summarize a non-fiction book for you in the form of audio blinks and even those text blinks. So these will be 12-15 minutes blinks that you will have, which get updated every day. So if you have a free account, you can listen to one non-fiction book every day. So that is one thing, one good thing. Goodreads is a place wherein you can find recommendations. You can find books that other like-minded people might be reading. So I am also on Goodreads. Presently, I am going through a finance thrill. So you might see a lot of option trading strategies and accounting strategy books in my Goodreads list. But if you go slightly backwards, you will see a lot of good recommendations. So you might want to follow people on Goodreads, right? And then there is this Audible bit that exists. Audible is obviously it's a subsidiary of Amazon. And there are Audible books when it comes to Audible. You might find audiobooks on places like Spotify as well. But Audible is basically where you can purchase, you can store it, and you can do all kinds of things. So for passive reading, if you like to read through listening, then Audible might be a good source. Right. Now going to the next section. LRDI. So as I said, LRDI will be logical reasoning and data interpretation. The question types, again, they are not fixed as such, but you might see questions based on arrangements. A critical path is basically one wherein you will be given a lot of ways to do a particular activity, and you have to find the one that is the most efficient. It could be the cheapest, it could be the most cost effective, it could be the most time effective, it could be whatever. But you can maybe look at arrangements, critical path based questions. Then you have games and tournaments based questions. And again, when it comes to games, in CAT 2017 afternoon slot, you got a set that was based on chess. So you can get questions that are based on real time games, right? Real life games. So you might want to pay some attention to that. There can also be questions on binary logic. Binary logic is the truth teller and liar wala logic. Some people will always tell the truth, some people will always lie. So that kind of a question. In data interpretation, you generally get visually intense graphs. So charts, caselets. Last couple of years, we have been seeing scatter plots, those spider graphs. We had a pie chart inside a pie chart inside a pie chart. So those kind of questions we had. So again, very nice questions you see on data interpretation. And obviously, one part of data interpretation is mathematical reasoning, wherein you might want to apply concepts of mathematics like averages, percentages, divisibility tests. You might want to apply concepts of time and worth, profit loss discount. So all these concepts might be applicable in these questions. So these are mathematical reasoning questions. LCM, HCF. So all these questions, all these concepts you might want to apply in a DI set as well. So then it's called a mathematical reasoning set. So that is the overview. Last year we had 2 sets of 6 questions each, 3 sets of 4 questions each. So in total 24 questions to be solved in 40 minutes. In terms of resources, again, the best way to practice LRDI is by solving a lot of sets. Because what needs to be done is, see, I will be very comfortable in LRDI if I were to establish callbacks. When I say establishing callbacks, it basically means that whenever I see a set, I should be able to relate it to something that I've seen earlier. If I'm able to do that, brilliant, because I will have a way to navigate through the set. If I'm not able to start a set, I know that it's going to take a lot of time, right? If I'm seeing something for the first time during the test, chances are very less that I'll be able to solve it nicely. Right? But if I've seen something similar earlier, it gives me an edge. So that is why I generally ask people to target 500 sets. Now, obviously, because you're starting a bit earlier, you might want to increase that target to 600 or so, but 500 is a decent number to start with, right? And with every set, you have to understand the bottleneck that exists. Every set will have a point wherein you will get stuck. That point is called the bottleneck. Now, the more sets you solve, the more bottlenecks you will be exposed to, the more things you will be able to use when you're actually solving tests during the test, right? So this is basically what you have to go for. In terms of a beginner level, you will have to go for logical puzzles, the ones that I had mentioned to you earlier. So Sudoku, Kakuro, Hitori, Kakurasu, Hidato, Loop the Loop, Nonogrades, Bulls and Cows. So all these things you might want to try, Minesweeper and everything, right? If you want to look at books, there are a couple of books that are mentioned here. One is called the Great Book of Puzzles and Teasers. This book is by George Summers. So it's a highly recommended book, but it's an insanely difficult book, right? I don't know how many of you will be able to go beyond the first 5 pages, right? It's a very tiring book, and it's a very confusing book. So, but it's obviously it's a very well researched and highly recommended book, right? So it's a painful book, but once you pass that barrier, it will make you a lot more happier, right? Then there's this book called Puzzles to Puzzle You. There are subsequent versions as well, more puzzles to puzzle you and so on. These books are by Shakuntala Devi. So again, they are very good books, lateral thinking puzzles and mathematical puzzles. So there are some questions that might be very interesting from these books, right? In fact, once when I took this snap, I saw at least 3 or 4 questions that were exact copies from this book. right? 99919, there was a question on that. There was a question on, again, hands of a clock, ages of people, and so on. So again, you might see a lot of questions from these books as well. Apps, as I mentioned, Elevate, Lumosity, 2048, Brain Training. So all these are really good apps that you might want to go through to improve your logical reasoning. Now, how to use those, I'll explain at a later point. In terms of quant, there are 5 topics, 5 areas that you will have to master. And again, these are in the decreasing order of importance. So the most important is going to be arithmetic, because you will have to be good at averages, percentages, ratios. You will have to be good at these 3 things. Only when you are good at these 3 things will you be able to understand deeper concepts like profit and loss, simple interest, compound interest, mixtures, weighted averages, allegations, time, speed, distance, time and work. So all these concepts will basically be a subset of percentages, averages, and ratios, right? So this you will have to do. And when it comes to the CAT, arithmetic has generally contributed somewhere around 40 to 50% of the overall number of questions, right? So out of 26 questions, we could see roughly 10 to 12 questions from arithmetic. So that is basically the weight of arithmetic at the test. Algebra is the second largest component of the test. So algebra will include linear equations, quadratic equations, word problems, polynomials, graphs, functions, inequalities, right? So all these things will be a part of algebra. Then comes geometry. So algebra is roughly 20-25% of the overall test. Geometry will be another 15-20% of the overall test. Geometry includes everything that you have studied till your 10th standard. So starting with lines, angles, triangles, quadrilaterals, polygons, circles, mensuration, everything will be a part of geometry. Trigonometry does not appear at the CAT directly, but some knowledge of trigonometry might be helpful. Okay? So that is what we are going for. Number theory will basically involve questions that are based on properties of numbers. So it could be classification of numbers, LCM, HCF, base systems, factorials, divisibility tests, division-based questions. So all these will be a part of your number theory. And modern math includes permutations and combinations, probability, set theory, Venn diagrams, progressions, sequences series. So all these are a part of modern math generally. All right. So number theory and modern math will generally contribute to 5%. So you might see 1 or 2 questions from each of these, but a majority of your questions will be from the top 3 topics that I have mentioned. Right. Now, what to do for quant? Obviously, you will have to start with speed math. Any thing that you do in math, you have to be friendly with numbers. So if you are not friendly with numbers, it's going to be a problem. Okay. Yeah. Samanvay, I'll just try to explain that. Okay, I'll just try to answer that. Right. So speed math is what you have. You have a formula booklet that I would suggest you make on your own, wherein you will just design a PPT or write it in your book whenever you come across a formula. So any formula that you have heard of, any new concept that you would have heard of, especially if you are not good at retention, especially if you are not good at math, I would strongly suggest that you go for a formula book. Okay. Similar to that, you can also go for an interesting questions repository. So basically what this means is, whenever you come across a question that you find interesting, you can just make a note of it and you will be able to have everything in front of you, right? In terms of apps or YouTube channels, you can go for apps like Brain Training, Math Workout, Math Puzzle. So all these are core calculation based or math logic based apps. And in terms of channels, YouTube channels, there are a couple that are my favorites in a way. So Numberphile is one of my favorites. It's a very nice channel. These people are what you can call, I don't know, typical nerds, if you want to put it that way. But there are some really interesting exploratory math that these people do. So I really like those. Mind Your Decisions is more of interesting questions, interesting puzzles, kind of thing. So again, you might want to try that out. Right. So these are the 2 things. Someone asked, where can we practice lots of CAT and other such papers for free online? Again, someone will just have to search CAT papers free and you will see the resources that are there. At IMS, we have all the past CAT papers under your resources tab. So that is something that you will get. In addition to CAT papers, you'll also get ZAT papers, SNAC papers, and IFT papers. So as a part of your IMS, how do I put it, dashboard, you will see these things as well. But obviously, you can just search online. You will find a lot of places wherein you can get those papers for free. The problem is you will get those papers for free, but some of them might not really have optimum solutions. So the solutions or the key that you have might not be of the best level. So you might want to be careful when you're exploring free resources, right? So in general, if you're looking at timeline, so as we saw, this is basically the last step. This is basically how you plan your prep ahead and how you build your profile. So there are two things. One is, in general, if you're looking at the timelines that exist, from now onwards till CAT 2022, I'm expecting you to put an average of 1.5 hours of prep a day. 1 to 2 hours, 2 on the upper side, 1 on the lower side. That is what I'm expecting you to do, which will include 30 minutes of reading, 15 minutes of solving puzzles, 15 minutes of calculation based questions, and 1 hour of core preparations. You can take one section or one major area a day, and you can plan for 5 days a week kind of preparation, right? With your sessions and all, obviously your sessions will be 2 or 3 days a week if you start right now, and those will be outside of whatever I have written, right? So that is basically how it goes. Now the other question that people have is, how do we manage these 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours, right? The point is, you are not going to get 1 or 2 hours at a stretch. So make peace with that thing. If you get it, bonus. If you don't get it, don't wait for an opportunity to come jump, you will get 2 hours. I'll give an example of today's session itself, right? Today we are supposed to start at 6 o'clock. We started at 6:05, let's say. Some of you might have been sitting in front of your screens from 5:50, 5:55, right? You had a good 15 minutes ka window that you could have used in your preparation or for your preparation, right? But you couldn't, because you hadn't planned anything for these 15 minutes ka window. So the whole idea of these 30 minutes, 15 minutes is for you to prepare your schedule 1 week before you are going to implement it. So every Sunday you can make it a practice to sit for a couple of hours, visualize your entire week ahead. I'm not saying 15 minutes kidhar milega. I'm not talking about where you are going to get those 15 minutes. I'm talking about what are you going to do in those 15 minutes. You are getting 15 minutes. Now what will you do in that, right? In those 15 minutes. So that is basically what you have to plan for. So always think in terms of 15 minutes. Don't think in terms of 2 hours or 3 hours. Those timelines are generally not going to work, right? 15 minutes is a more realistic timeline, 15 or 20 minutes, depending on your planning. But I would probably be more comfortable with 15 minutes. I'll solve 5 questions in 15 minutes. End of the story. Which 5 questions to solve, I'll mark and keep in my courseware. So that is something that I can do, right? So plan for something like this. These are the broad timelines that exist and the resources that you can go for. So as I said, everybody is at an 80th percentile right now. Till April next year, I expect you to reach a 90 to 95 kind of a percentile in terms of content, right? Now what happens, what to do at this point in time is, one, you have to understand your concepts. You have to have section level awareness. So at this point in time, if I ask you, what are you good or bad at? Most of you will probably tell me that I'm not good at verbal, I'm not good at quant, I'm not very good at LRDA, or I'm very good at quant, but I'm not very good at LRDA, that kind of thing, right? So we are talking in terms of sections. Now, if you reach, or when you reach October of next year, if I ask you this question, you can't say that mera quant weak hai. At that point in time, you will have to be a lot more specific. You will have to tell me at a question level whether I will be able to attempt this question or not. And you will have to tell me the answer to that question within 10 seconds. Solve karna chahiye ki nahi karna chahiye? Should I solve this question or not? Within 10 seconds, you should be able to tell me the answer to this question, yes or no. Right? That is basically what I expect you to do. How do you build that? One, first you start understanding concepts. So you will start by learning theory from modules. You will learn by watching concept videos. You will learn by solving practice exercises, class exercises, theory, if you are going through those sessions that we have. So all those things will go on till March. Beyond that, if you're looking at April till June or till September, you are going to look mostly at application-based learning, wherein you will be looking at the practice module. You will be looking at past year CAT papers. You will be looking at eMaximizer workshops. You will be looking at master classes. You will be looking at sectional tests, SimCAT. So all these things you will be looking at starting from April. That's what we are going for, right? And October to November will basically be that point in time wherein you will fine tune your strategy. So your test taking strategy needs to be optimum. You need to be comfortable dealing with the various kind of scenarios that might happen on an exam day. So all those things you need to be comfortable. So these are the broad timelines that you have. These are the resources that you get access to. This, I'm talking about these from an IMS perspective, right? So this is what we have. Now, in terms of profile building, again, I'll not explain each and every bullet here, but once you have figured out your calling, once you have figured out what you need to do in terms of your interest, when it comes to a particular specialization, you might want to look at these profiles if you have the bandwidth. I'm not saying that everybody should go for profile building exercises. No. If you have the bandwidth, if you are comfortably preparing for CAT, if you're comfortably preparing for your college exams, and even after that you have fuel in the tank, you have a couple of hours to kill, you can go for profile building activities. Or if you have a very bad profile, you have, let's say, 60 60 60 kind of a profile, which you might find very difficult to justify, right? At that point in time, you might want to think about building your profile so that you will have more topics to talk about during your interview. So these are basically the list of skills that are required. These are the course names in general that you can search for on various platforms. You can search for platforms like Udemy, Coursera, and the like. And you can just look at whichever module interests you, whichever has the best ratings, and you can go for those things, right? So this is basically what I have. You might want to take a screenshot of this if you're interested in profile building activities. But again, profile building should not happen at the cost of your prep. Your first priority in life is doing well in your college exams, because your college exams are not going to happen every year. Your second priority is doing well at the CAT. Your third priority is building your profile. That is how I will put it. Your first priority should not be profile building. You will end up having a very good profile, but you will not end up getting into the interview room. So a good CV is worthless if it does not take you till the interview, right? So make sure that you know this. Okay. Now, what to do next? So if you want to explore the zero fee variant at IMS, you can just scan this QR code that we have here. There is a portal that you can go through. There are some resources that have been made available to you. So you have some learning videos, you have some live sessions that have happened. You have full length tests that you can explore, right? So you can just have to sign up and go ahead with this. It's called CAT at zero fee. So you can just go and explore this bit once. Okay. Yes, college marks do count for shortlisting after clearing CAT for many of the colleges. So if you're looking at colleges like Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, Lucknow, Indore, Kozhikode specifically, or Shillong as well, then they will also consider your 10th standard marks, your 12th standard marks, your graduation marks, the nature of your work ex, the diversity that you bring in terms of your background, the diversity you might bring in terms of your gender. So a lot of things come into the picture in addition to your CAT. In cases like, let's say, an IFT, an XLRI, an FMS, an MDI, right? You might not be rejected on the basis of your 10, 12 marks, but you will be asked questions pertinent to your ACATs in your interviews. So obviously, the top colleges will want to have people with very good profiles. So they will either build some parameters into their selection criteria, or explicitly or implicitly. Explicitly, matlab the kind of things that IIMs do. Implicitly, matlab the kinds of things that an XLRI or an FMS might. So you can just scan this one and you can just enroll for the zero fee variant. Also, if you want to register for a personal counseling session, if you want to get some doubts clarified in terms of why should you go for an MBA, what specialization should you choose, which colleges should you target, which tests should you target, you can have a personal counseling session with one of our mentors. So you can ask for a mentor-led counseling session, right? And you can just select a date and a time by scanning this particular code. So you will get a form that you will have to fill with your details, and someone from IMS will get in touch with you. Okay, so that is the personal counseling bit that we have here. So again, it would be a good idea to evaluate this thing. Obviously, people who are thinking about international education as well, you might want to do this. So you might want to get your profile evaluated. Okay, yeah, Tanmay will answer that bit, right? And these are the programs that we have. You can find all the details on our website. So we have a live variant, we have a blended variant. So of course, we don't know when the classrooms are going to start in some parts of the country. In some parts of the country, the classes have already started. So in some parts, we don't know when it's going to start, but as and when it starts, you will be shifted to a classroom program. So that is the blended program that we have. The live program will basically have live classes. And the third variant is the eCatapult one, which is the self-learning program that you will have, wherein the entire set of videos and everything will be made available to you, and then you can learn at your own pace. Right? So this is basically what it will look like. of course, you can explore a lot more by going to imsindia.com, the website, and you will be able to explore these options. Okay. If you have any queries beyond the session, if you have something that I might have missed or something that you need some clarification on, you can get in touch with me through any of these avenues, right? You can just drop me a mail at shashank.prabhu@imsindia.com, or you can get in touch with me on LinkedIn. You can add me on LinkedIn. You can follow me on Goodreads. You can read my answers on Quora. I've answered most of the commonly asked questions on Quora, right? So you might want to check these things out. I'm sure they will add some value to your prep, right? I'll just show you one more slide in terms of, okay, I don't have it, I think. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I'll just share the screen again. Yeah. All right. So this is what I have. In addition to this, we also have some blogs at IMS. So we have a blog called CAT 100 percentile, which you might want to check. It's written by a faculty who goes by the name of Scrabbler, who is an 11-time CAT 100 percentile, right? So I don't think he needs any further introduction. You can just check out the blog. It's for free. It's called CAT 100 percentile, CAT 100 percentile. It's a very nice blog. You also have something called as the CAT Writer. You have Wikipedia. You have Cracking CET. So we have all kinds of blogs there. You might want to check those out. Right. If you have any queries, you can just put it in the chat or the Q&A section, and I'll try to answer a few of those. Yeah. Tanmay, if you already have internships in content writing and business development, it doesn't matter, Tanmay. See, the point is I will need 3 or 4 spikes on my CV. 3 or 4 things that I'm very comfortable discussing in my interview. So if I have 3 or 4 interesting activities already as a part of my CV, I need not overkill. Right, I need not go for an overkill. I think what you have right now is fine. I think you should probably focus a bit more on your college curriculum and your CAT prep. And if you have more bandwidth beyond that, then only you can go for it. But at the moment, whatever you have, I think is fine. Yes, is there anything else? Anything that you want to ask or get some clarification on? You can let me know.
Guys, any other questions? You can use chat option or Q&A. If chat is easy for you, you can put your questions in chat. If you do not have, then also let us know so that we don't keep on waiting for your questions. And yeah, so at least let us know. Like if you have any questions, you just write it down, or if you don't have any questions, you can just let us know. Yeah. Okay. So it seems we're not getting more questions now. And we'll just so like with your permission, should we go ahead and conclude? Anything to say before? Okay, now we got a question. There's a question by Pooja. Yeah. Which books can we refer for concept building?
So Pooja, see, if you want to look at some free resources for concept building, then I would talk about the NCERT textbooks. So you can go to the official NCERT website. You can download the PDFs of books for class 8, 9th, and 10th. So that is basically what you can go for at the very basic level. Obviously, the courseware that we have at IMS are the ones that start with basic concepts for any topic, and as we go ahead, they become denser and denser. So you can refer to either of these resources that I have mentioned.
So any more questions? Okay. Right. Right, sir. I think no questions from participants like now. Thank you so much for giving your time, and thank you for giving such a beautiful presentation with, everything over there for participants. I think many people, those who were not able to join, could be a reason because of this offline campus and all, like campuses opening up, and on people are not getting time. We'll share the recording with them so that they are coming back, and we'll share all the links with them as well to contact you. Right.
Sure.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you, participants, for joining on Monday evening. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.